The Packers clinched the number one seed in the NFC by defeating the Minnesota Vikings 37-10 on Sunday Night Football in Week 17. Now, to be honest, this game itself isn't really worth talking about. I'll be 100% honest. This game stunk from the beginning. Now, you can't blame the Vikings for their poor performance necessarily, because you can't blame Kirk Cousins for getting COVID. In the world and the nature of the way the NFL is running right now, the way the world's running right now, he got it and he wasn't able to play. So at the worst possible time, he tested positive when, if anything, the Vikings needed him the most because they needed this win so badly to stay in the playoff race. Now, do they win if Kirk Cousins plays this game? I don't know, because the Packers, I feel like, played with a complete edge, knowing that the number one seed was on the line, the NFC playoffs going through Lambeau, and the fact that they lost to the Vikings earlier on this season, Justin Jefferson going crazy on them. So I think the Packers played with a bit of an edge. Their defense definitely played much better than it had the last couple of weeks against the Seahawks and the Browns. So the Packers defense was very good tonight. But just as a whole, the Vikings desperately miss Kirk Cousins. Their season is basically over. I mean, they play the Bears next week, but it's a meaningless game. It's kind of just for pride at that point. See what they have for next year. See what they can build around. Mike Zimmer may not even be around. Like, he's a good defensive coach, he is, but even their defense struggled at times this year. Their inconsistency for the Vikings this year, games that they should have won and they lose, and then the games that they should have won by a huge margin, they had struggles closing them out. Mainly that game against the Steelers, I think it was on Thursday Night Football, where they gave up 29 or something straight points, and the Steelers almost came back in that game. But the Vikings, a very disappointing season in my eyes. They have a lot of talent. Now, Kirk Cousins, I think, had a fairly solid season, but the inconsistency of the Vikings team as a whole is what I think cost them their season. They had chance after chance after chance this season to close out games, to show they're legit, because they have too much talent to be a bad football team. Like, you look at the names they have on defense, you look at the names they have on offense, they shouldn't be a bad football team. They really shouldn't. They should be fighting. They almost should be fighting for a division title. Like, they have that much talent on their team. And to see them struggle like that, it really stinks. Because you have guys like Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook playing great all year long and then not getting the recognition they deserve just because their team is just inconsistent as a whole. It really stinks to see guys like that not go very far when you know they have the talent to go much further than where they went. So the Vikings, very disappointing season for them. Because of the loss, the Eagles have now clinched a playoff spot, which is not something I think any of us saw coming at the beginning of this season. The Eagles struggled really early on this season to put it together, consecutive wins, look really good, look sharp, but they turned a corner and they started playing very, very good football. You start at that Broncos game, they won that game, they beat the Saints, they beat the Jets, they beat Washington on that Tuesday night game. They beat the Giants last week. They beat the Washington football team again this week. So the Eagles are kind of on a roll right now. They've won 7 of their last 8 games. They've found out who they are as an offense, who they are as a team. They may play spoiler to somebody in this postseason. The Eagles are not really a team that I want to play. They still have a lot of question marks. You know, mainly can Jalen Hurts play a huge game under pressure? And if he can do that, that would be very cool and very impressive. But just as a whole, the Eagles making the playoffs is just, it was a very impressive feat to see them make the playoffs after a really rough start this season. People crapping all over their team. People honestly wanted Nick Sirianni fired at points, and just for them to come out the way the Eagles did, clinch a playoff spot. I think they won 7 of 8 is what it looks like. Very, very impressive season for the Eagles to make the playoffs after the Vikings loss. And then for the Packers, with them clinching the number 1 seed, now they obviously don't have to play their starters at all in week 18. That'll give some of those guys rest, especially with Aaron Rodgers, with his toe and all those injuries that the team as a whole are facing. It'll give them a chance to rest a lot of guys, to not have to have them play. It'll give Jordan Love some even more meaningful reps. Hopefully it'll prepare him for whatever's happening in the future. Who knows? I mean, I don't see Aaron Rodgers leaving Green Bay at this point. Just the way he played this season, just the way everything finally clicked. You know, you had the whole offseason, and then you had week 1 where Rodgers throws 2 interceptions. The Packers didn't even score a touchdown. I think they lost 35-3. It just didn't look like they wanted to be there. Me included, crapped all over them. Like, this season's going to be a long one for them, and for them to rally, get to 13-3, number 1 seed. I'll be honest, I was wrong about what I said in week 1. That was very, very impressive what the Packers did this season. From all the distractions that they've had to just foot on the gas, number 1 seed in the NFC. Very, very impressive. Aaron Rodgers played at an MVP quality level this season. The numbers may not show it, but obviously without this team, you look at the Jordan Love game against the Chiefs, like that was bad. That was a very bad game for them. Only scoring 7 points. Their defense held the Chiefs to 13, obviously. Like, remember that game. We all remember that game. But like, I think that game alone kind of did show the value of Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, week 1 is an outlier. I think week one as a whole this year, this whole season feels like a lot of these games feel like outliers, but this season as a whole was really, really crazy. It took a really long time, in my opinion, to figure out who was the number 1 team in the NFL. Like, it really, really did, because there would be weeks where one team was really good and then they fall off and play like crap, and then, you know, you have a bad team who plays well but still loses, or you have the Lions winning one week, and then you have a lot of crazy things that happen this NFL season. So it was never really easy to figure out who the best teams were. But I think late in this season right now, I mean, in looking at the NFC, I think it's clear that the Packers are the number 1 team in the NFC. They struggled against the Ravens, they struggled against the Browns. They still came out at the winning portions of those games. They were still able to pull out the victories. They were able to just completely shut down the Vikings, beat them by 27 points. So the Packers, I think, are easily the best team in the NFC. There's an argument to make for Aaron Rodgers to win MVP. There's an argument for Tom Brady to win MVP. There's an argument for Cooper Kupp. There's an argument for Jonathan Taylor. There's an argument for a whole bunch of guys. I'll be honest, I don't know who it is. But I think that there's a lot of arguments for a lot of guys, and just Aaron Rodgers, in his case, the distractions, like I mentioned earlier, their season, I think this is a really good team, and I also think that Aaron Rodgers might be back next year in Green Bay. Like, just to see the success of the season. I know Aaron Rodgers, he constantly says he's taking it one day at a time. He doesn't want to get too far ahead of himself. But you look at the Packers, winning 13 games in 3 straight seasons, having a great season this year, everything finally clicking for them. One of the best Packer teams that Aaron Rodgers has had probably since they won the Super Bowl against the Steelers in Dallas years ago. So to see Aaron Rodgers leave Green Bay, I think that's going to be tough to watch if that actually happens. And that's just coming from a football fan. Like, you see a guy leave, because where's he going to go? He's going to go to Denver. You know, they're quarterback away, but that's not going to look right. I mean, I'm all for Mahomes versus Rodgers, Herbert versus Rodgers for all these years to come. Like, that's going to be a lot of fun. Derek Carr versus Rodgers, if Derek Carr stays, like, you know, there's a lot of things that can happen in the AFC West if Rodgers goes there, or if he goes to Pittsburgh. Obviously, that would be cool. Him, Mike Tomlin, that would be insane if he goes to the Steelers. Like, there's places he can go that are going to need a quarterback coming up. But just to see him leave Green Bay, I think it would just feel weird, and it just wouldn't feel right to see him in another uniform. It's like Tom Brady leaving New England. It would feel the same way. It's going to feel so weird to see Aaron Rodgers leave Green Bay. So I'm hoping that if he doesn't come back, he retires, because just seeing him in another uniform would feel weird to me, and I think it would look weird, and the NFL just wouldn't feel right to see Aaron Rodgers in another uniform. But this was a great season by the Packers. Great win on Sunday Night Football for them. They clinched the number 1 seed in the playoffs. They get to rest a whole bunch of starters. The Eagles made the playoffs because of this loss by the Vikings. I will probably have another video up later this week to discuss some of the scenarios, possibilities of the playoffs heading into Week 18. We still don't know the schedule, time slots for Week 18, because they're trying to get all the great games on ESPN, Sunday Night Football, all that stuff. So they're going to be flexing and moving games all over the place. going into week 18. Week 18, I think, is going to be a lot of fun, if you ask me. Still a lot of playoff implication type games. You have the Chargers Raiders game, which credit to the Raiders somehow becoming 9-7 after all the crap that they've dealt with this year. So that's going to be a really fun game to see the Raiders Chargers. The 49ers Rams game is going to be huge for the 49ers. The Saints Falcons game is going to be a huge game for the Saints. So that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So a lot of these games just come up to seeding what's going to happen next week. But the Packers are the number 1 seed in the NFC after beating the Vikings. Give me your thoughts down below of what you thought of Sunday Night Football. Personally, didn't really think this game deserved much to talk about. Wasn't really that good of a game. But the Packers did defeat the Vikings. Give me your thoughts down below, and I will see you in the next one.